Welcome everyone to the Thunder Buddies podcast, your source for all things Thunder basketball, courtesy of the Oklahoman. My name is Justin Martinez, joined once again by our columnist Joe Mussatto. Joe, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, Justin. We're 6 days away from ring night, from season being upon us. So this is it's the nitty gritty time. We're getting close, man.
Yeah, it's a crazy feeling. OKC's only got one preseason game left. That's going to be this Friday, home game against Denver. Only its second home game of preseason play. And like you said, before you know it, we've got opening night, ring night on Tuesday. OKC hosting the Houston Rockets. And obviously, we all know the ultimate goal for OKC this season to win its second straight championship. But I thought today that we could actually get into some individual goals for some players, things that each guy is going to have to do. Obviously, everyone's going to have their role during this title push. So if that sounds good to you, we can go ahead and jump into this because we're going to go through all 14 of the active players, Thomas Sorber being the other person on the 15-man roster who obviously is not going to play this season due to injury. So we got 14 guys here. We have split this up, you and me. And if you're ready to go ahead and get into it, let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, let's do it. You graciously split the team into two squads. Um and yeah, I'm ready to go, man. Where do you want to start?
Awesome. Well, I feel like we got to start off with the reigning MVP, regular season, finals, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah.
I want to preface this because this is who I've got on this one. I want to preface this by saying, obviously, if he just comes back and does exactly what he did last season, that's great. Like, I mean, it's almost greedy in a sense to look for something that he can get even better at after a season that he just had. But if I did have to find one thing that I feel like he should be striving for, it's got to be, the 3-point shooting, continuing to improve on that, becoming even more unguardable. Last season, to his credit, he did shoot 37.5% on a career high 5.7 attempts, which was great. We saw him stepping in the shots more confidently, even a couple step back shots with confidence. But the more that he's able to improve on that, I mean, it just becomes a matter of like, just how do you defend this dude? I mean, where do you pick him up? If you pick him up at that 3-point line and you're putting so much pressure there, he also led the league last season in drives per game during the regular season at 20.6. So we know he's able to get past you, get to that mid range shot, which is as good as any in the NBA, finish around the rim, where he's also elite at doing that. So that 3-point shot, I think the more that he adds on to that, even if it's less attempts, but just a higher percentage, like he did shoot 40%, at least 40% in 2020, 2021. I think it was 41.8% on 4.9 attempts. If he's able to get back to that, then it just becomes a matter of just, I don't know how you guard this dude.
Yeah, it's tough to come up with a goal for Shea because he's the MVP and he's won a championship and accomplished everything. But that's probably where I would go to. 37.5% from three last year was actually a second best mark of his career behind that 2020-21 season you just mentioned. But 5.7 attempts per game, as you said, a career high. I mean, maybe he can push that over six because if he can shoot, 38% from three and six plus attempts per game, that makes him even more efficient. So this is a guy who has led the league in drives, I think, every season since that 2020-21 season. He's got the mid range game. He defies analytics on that one with as efficient as he is. And you wouldn't say that he's like a true three level scorer right now because that 3-point shot just isn't. First off, he doesn't shoot enough of them, and it's not as consistent. So that's kind of really the only hole kind of in his offensive game.
For sure. And you've actually got another person on this list who just took a big leap, is already playing at a high level. Where can you find a goal for Jalen Williams after the type of season he just had?
Jalen Williams. I gotta pull up my list here. Okay.
Okay.
Um, my goal for Jalen Williams: learn the art of foul drawing. Maybe he can go to the school of SGA on this one. It was a big talking point, especially earlier in the season. I think J Dub was frustrated at times that he put so much pressure on the rim, and he's pretty up there as far as drives per game too. That you would just naturally expect more free throw attempts for J Dub. So um, yeah, that's my that would be a goal for him is it's not just about kind of the force in getting to the rim, but the finesse once you're there to, um, you know, there's some showmanship involved. Certainly, also it's going to come with. Uh, he's now a star in this league. He's an All NBA player. That certainly is going to have some influence as well. Um, but J Dub, despite putting a ton of pressure on the rim, he ranked 31st in the NBA in free throws per 36 minutes. That was behind guys like Jordan Poole and Keontae George. Um, so just like really surprising that he would be that low. SGA by the way ranked second to Giannis. But here's the good news: free throw attempts per game for J Dub. First season 2.5, second season 3.1. Then he was up to 4.3 last year. In the playoffs, 5.6 free throw attempts per game. And we often associate the playoffs with maybe fewer fouls being called just because it's more physical. So he took a step in that direction, and that's just going to make him an even more efficient scorer.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I would also put as goal for him. You mentioned the uptick in the playoffs. I did think he was, getting to the rim aggressively. And like you said, it sometimes it gets even harder to draw a foul in the playoffs. So if he's able to play that way heading into this season, you got to imagine that 4.3 average, which he had last regular season, is going to go up. And then we know everything else that he can do. Obviously, he's able to score from all three levels. He's as versatile of a defender as anyone in the NBA. I mean, he's going to be competing for another All Star, All NBA, All Defensive, all of those things. He's going to be competing for that again. So yeah, adding that pressure at the rim, in addition to what Shai also does, I think just opens things up even more for those kick out guys, and that just ultimately just helps OKC in the long run. Next up, I had Chet Holmgren kind of rounding out the big three here for OKC, and we've talked about this before about Chet. I mean, the big thing is we saw flashes of what he could do before he got injured last season. That first 9 games into the year before he fractured his hip, he was averaging, if I have it here, 18.2 points, 52% shooting from the field, 40% shooting from deep. And I think the big thing that we saw from him was just that confidence with both his shot and also putting the ball on the floor as well. We saw some of that shot creation, that ability to get to the rim, which, like we said, with Jada, just opens things up for everybody else. I think the more that he can get back to that, the more that he's able, to show that mobility that he has, to show the handles that he has as a 7-footer. That's really to me is where I feel like that next jump is for him. The easy goal is also to stay healthy. Like I
Yeah.
should have prefaced that. Obviously, only played 32 games last season. That's kind of hard to put as a goal, just because you can't control that sort of stuff. But the big picture goal for him is play at least 65 games, qualify for an All NBA team, All Defensive, be in that contention for an All Star spot. Like those are the big goals, but I think that starts also with his play on the floor, which would be more shot creation.
Yeah, I'm with you there. My next guy was Lugans Dort. Lou Dort. I've got a lot of 3-point goals on my list, Justin, but it's a pretty important shot in the game, so I don't feel too bad about it. Lou Dort, last 2 seasons, 41% from three, 39% from three. Maybe this is who Lou Dort is. I'm still I'm old enough to remember the days when Lou Dort wasn't a knockdown 3-point shooter. It still doesn't look like it's going in. Is it? They're going to have to figure out, do some measurements on where that banner is going to be to make sure it's not too long to get in the way of one of Lou Dort's 3-pointers. Um, but man, the guy has a knack for clutch shot making, and the numbers speak for themselves, even in the regular season. So, can he go 3 years in a row of being a 40% 3-point shooter? Because that's what he's been the last 2 seasons. If you average it out, that's my goal for him. Hit that 40 mark again. And if he does, he just continues to be one of the best 3 and D players in this league. And I feel like he's not even mentioned that much in that conversation because he's not a natural 3-point shooter. Um, but again, the numbers speak for themselves. We know what he can do defensively. Maybe another goal for Lou is, defensive player of the year. He was certainly in that conversation last year. He was first team all defense. But I think if he does this again 3 years in a row, you just kind of take it to the bank that this is who he is. He's a 40% 3-point shooter. And that's not taking like crazy Isaiah Joe threes. It's spot up threes that are for the most part wide open. But still, that's valuable if you can knock those down. Because defenses can't stop everybody on this Thunder team. That's still a shot that defenses are willing to give up. And Dort can continue to punish that kind of defense.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I think the big goal for him would be, winning Defensive Player of the Year. We obviously heard his teammates talking about that, campaigning for him last season, wasn't able to do it, but is going to be in contention again for that. But yeah, I think exactly if he's able to just continue to be that 40% shooter, like you said, they're going to be open looks as well. I mean, that's really all OKC is looking for out of him on the offensive side of the ball. We're not going to say that, okay, let's see Ludor put the ball on the deck more, like as long as he's able to still capitalize on those looks, we know everybody else with Shea and Dub who are going to be able to create. Like that's really where you're going to find the most value with Lou on the offensive side of the ball. And then we know what he does on defense. Next up, I've got Isaiah Hardenstein. And this is an interesting one because we talked about this. A lot of people have talked about this. The hope, or I think the best lineup for OKC would be to have Kaysen in that starting five, moving Hardenstein off to the bench. So I'm kind of again, speaking that into existence a little bit. But one goal that I would have for Hardenstein is I really want him to continue to lean into his passing, especially when he is with that second unit.
Yeah.
We look at in this scenario, Kaysen will be starting. That's one less playmaker off the bench. Nikola Topic obviously had his testicular procedure. He's going to miss some time. Like they're going to need some guys who are able to actually get the ball moving, facilitate at that second unit. And I think Hardenstein is someone who could do that. He's a great passer at his size. He can run a two-man game with whatever guard that he's going to be paired up with there, and he's able to create. So I think that would be the main thing for him. I'm not going to sit here and say let's see some more three-point shooters. I know he just made one last night, but I don't think that's going to be a thing. But I think the main thing is continuing to lean into that passing, be someone who OKC can run their offense through, especially when he is running with that second unit.
Yeah, he takes some of the pressure off J Dub, who's often, the when Shea sits, he's kind of the leader out there of that second unit, but take some of the creation responsibility off of him. He's he plays awesome with two of the Thunder's best role players, Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. Wiggins is such a smart cutter. And Hartenstein does a great job finding him backdoor cuts. And Isaiah Joe and him have a pretty good two-man game. Just with Joe's ability to pop out and hit some threes. So he really is a hub there in the middle of the floor that you can play through. So I like that one. Okay, Case and Wallace. This is the second of my three in a row. Harping on 3-pointers. Be a killer from the corners is my thing, my goal for Cason Wallace, Justin, because Cason Wallace, as a rookie, shot 47% from the corner. Pretty good. Cason Wallace is a sophomore, 34% from the corners, which is really bad because obviously those are the best quality 3-point shots. Again, this is the guy who most of his threes are wide open. You saw in the playoffs how he really struggled from three, but maybe 47% is not sustainable from the corners, but like he can't be 34% either, because a little less than half of his total 3-point attempts come from the corner. So it's high volume there. You got to cash those in. Because that's the shot he's going to continue to get in this offense. I thought about going in a more broad direction of like improve as a handler, as a passer, kind of show more juice off the dribble. I'm not ready to like give up on that because first he's such a tremendous player. We all know what he does on the defensive end. I just think that's a less likely, less realistic, but I do think it's realistic that he could become, a knockdown shooter from the corners when no one's guarding him. He just didn't hit those last year. And that kind of can kill a possession. So he's got to get better from the corners.
Yeah, I think that also is for me would be the big thing for him. We talked about it, the idea of putting him in that starting five. One of the big advantages for it is you're getting more floor spacing, and obviously anything he provides is going to be more than like an Isaiah Hardenstein in terms of 3-point shooting. but still, it is predicated on him being able to knock down those shots. That's going to be the big advantage that you have when you have him out there. The playmaking also, I think especially when he's running with that second unit, that would be a bonus. But yeah, long term, in terms of I think OKC's vision for him, he is someone who's able to add to that floor spacing with that first unit, with Chet at the five. And yeah, if he's able to continue to get better, or I shouldn't say continue to get better, get back to the shooting he was doing as a rookie, then I think that would be big because the shot still looks fine. I didn't see any sort of issue with his
Yeah.
his form or anything like that. I just think they weren't falling as much. But he's able to get back to that, then that would be big for OKC. Next up, I've got Alex Caruso, and this was one that I kind of struggled with because he's not someone who's going to be leaned on super heavily during the regular season. He hovered at around 20 minutes per game last regular season. I think he's going to stay around there this time. He's not someone who's going to get a lot of starts. He's going to be that energy guy off the bench, and then obviously we know what he does in the postseason. So you kind of said that you've gone through all the 3-point shooting. If I had to say something for him, I just think it's continue to be someone who can knock down those clean looks from deep during the regular season as well. We saw a big jump from him in the regular season. He was shooting 35% on 3.1 attempts. In the postseason, it jumped up to 41% on 3.9 attempts. So just a little bit more of that in the regular season, I think, is really all I would ask for out of him. In addition to everything he's going to do defensively with all the hustle plays, that sort of stuff. Just continuing to be someone who can knock down those shots, and then obviously, being an elite defender as well.
Yeah. The goal for it is harder for a guy that, I mean, so many of these Thunder players are either young stars or young players who are just scratching the surface of kind of their potential. And it's like Caruso, it's like, yeah, just be who you were last year, which is asking a whole heck of a lot. But yeah, that sounds good. I'm gonna change up the order on my list here. I'm going with Jay Will, and the goal for Jay Will, average 1 block per game. Sounds like a lot, and it is based on where he started, but he's trending up. First year, 0.2 blocks per game. Second year, 0.4. Last year, 0.6. So if you're following that pattern, he's on pace for 0.8 blocks per game. But I think he can get to a block per game. And I really don't care like what his actual like block numbers are, but it gets to the larger point of he Mark Dagnall used this term, a ground bound rim protector, when he entered the league. And that was a kind of a backhanded compliment. Not that Mark meant it that way, but it was like the charge taking was cool. I enjoyed writing about it. It's a fun story. It was kind of gimmicky. Like that was his only quote unquote rim protection was standing under the rim and trying to draw charges. And now, 3-4 years later, he's kind of transformed his body. He looks noticeably slimmer out there on the court. He still takes a lot of charges, but he's not even like wasn't leading the league or anything last year. But I think he's become a more legitimate rim protector, and that's never going to be a specialty. He's on the shorter side. He's not the most athletic guy, but he has improved his athleticism as he's kind of transformed his body. So this is a guy who was super limited in his defensive skill set, and now he's I think growing into maybe a legitimate defensive player at the 5 spot. And we talked so much in the offseason about the Thomas Sorber pick and how maybe Sorber can be the long-term replacement for Isaiah Hartenstein if they have to decline Hartenstein's option. And I feel like during that talk, we kind of forget about Jay Will. It's like maybe Jay Will's maybe the long-term option is hiding in plain sight. Especially if he improves on the defensive end, because he can be, on the offensive end, he can kind of play as a floor spacing 5, which they love to have. And then if he's better on the defensive end, you're really not worried about that. Right now, he's probably the best third string center in the NBA. So if he continues to improve defensively, improves his rim protector, I think J Will can be that guy. It doesn't really matter what Sorber becomes, what happens to Hartenstein. I think he's good enough to be a backup center.
Yeah, I think that that point that you brought up as well, that he is someone who can fit some of those needs that we're talking about for OKC as a floor spacing five. He's someone who shot 40.7% as a rookie from deep, and then last season 39.9% on 3.3 attempts. So yeah, we know he's able to space the floor, and then like you said, he's able to show some versatility on defense as well. You did mention that the weight that he lost. That's a little bit, I don't want to say concerning, but I do wonder how that will affect when he is guarding like the Nikola Jokic's, like we saw him do at times last playoffs. But I do think that either way, he's someone who is going to be able to do a little bit of everything. And the shot blocking, that would definitely be a good addition as well. Next up,
I I would advise him to go on a to load up on carbs or do whatever he needs to do before a possible Denver series, because you're right about that. In the regular season, I think having less weight on you is going to help him, but the Thunder needs heft against Jokic. We saw that when Mark tried to put Holmgren on him to begin the series, it was just no contest. Chet was getting put in the rim. Hartenstein was super valuable in that series, but so was Jay Will. Just have a bigger body, thicker guy to sort of push on Jokic. You hope that losing 10, 15 pounds, whatever it was, doesn't hurt him too much in that matchup.
yeah, I was trying to find the exact weight that he lost. I can't seem to find it here right now in the moment. But he was asked actually a couple days ago after practice about, how he feels that weight that he lost, how it might affect. I think he was actually specifically asked about like guarding a guy like Jokic. And all he said was time will tell a few times, which is not the most encouraging thing that you want to hear. I mean, he's not wrong. Time will tell. But that is, I think, one of those questions is, it's great to see that he's talking about. He feels like his body's in a good place. I'm sure he's going to feel better athletically, but yeah, they are going to be lacking a little bit of you know muscle and heft there going up against a guy like Jokic, which is one thing to think about. But next up, I've got Aaron Wiggins, and for me, it's just becoming more comfortable at the four. I think that's something he's going to get thrown into a little bit more this season. He played 20% of last season at the four spot. And then obviously with Kenrich Williams missing some time at the start of this season, and then Usman Jang, it doesn't seem like he's quite ready to contribute consistently to this team. Wiggins is going to be someone who's going to be asked to defend bigger bodies. It's something that he has struggled with at times. He's a bit of an in-betweener. So that's going to be something that I think if he's able to become more comfortable doing that, it just adds to the versatility with this bench. He's someone who said that he gained, I think he said 3 or 4 pounds of pure muscle is what he said this summer. We'll see how much that helps him. But that's the main thing for me, for him. And then also on the offensive side, continuing to knock down those shots, especially on the move. I think OKC has some good kick out shooters. They don't have a lot of movement shooters, which is something that he's able to do well. So continuing to capitalize on that while also hopefully becoming a little bit more versatile defensively.
That's a good one, because they are asking him to size up more often than not defensively. And even in the playoffs, those are the times where sometimes they'd have to take him off the floor because he was getting picked on defensively. I think he's better equipped to guard perimeter players. But again, putting on muscle, maybe that helps him guard fours more often than not. It's just, I mean, seriously, though, what a remarkable career arc for Aaron Wiggins. This is the 55th pick in the draft, who was the fourth leading scorer on the championship team last year. Like 12 points per game on pretty efficient shooting. Like, I don't know if there's another step for him as a scorer, but he's such a useful guy to have in the regular season where if you just need buckets on that second unit, he's a guy that'll get you some. And like, I just never saw him as that sort of player. Like one of his best buds from yesteryear, Trey Mann. Like, I thought, okay, Trey Mann could be like that quintessential six-man scorer, just comes off the bench and gets buckets. And now like Aaron Wiggins has become that guy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's someone who, like we said, is going to be asked to do that because outside of the main cast, Isaiah Joe, more of a spot up shooter. You look at other guys off the bench, Cason Wallace as well. Like he's the guy who is shot creating. We saw a lot of that this preseason as well as OKC has been playing a lot of guys, that he's really, it seems like every time he's asked to step up in that role to just create, get buckets, he's someone who's always able to do that. And that there is just, it is pretty impressive to see him continue to do that for sure.
Yeah, he could be on the fringes of the sixth man of the year conversation if he takes another leap. Okay, Isaiah Joe. This is a silly goal, but I said it. Lead the league in 3-point shooting because why not? He's that level of shooter. He puts that much pressure on defenses. Um, what makes it hard is like the difficulty level of difficulty of his attempts, but he's just an elite shooter. I mean, last year he ranked 24th among qualified players in 3-point percentage at 41.2%. He's now 3 years in a row. He's been above 40%. For context, Seth Curry led the league last year in 3-point percentage at 45.6, but he took like a few hundred less 3-point attempts, but still qualified for the league lead. So shout out to Seth. But I think it's within reason. Like sometimes Isaiah Joe like start slow or go through these lulls. Like I think there's a scenario where he's just on fire throughout the season and he puts up like a 45% 3-point shooting season.
Yeah, it feels a little bit weird to say it's like the goal for him, but I would love to see him in a 3-point shooting contest.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't make it last year. Off the top of my head, I'm blanking on like the last Thunder player to do it, to compete in one.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Did Paul George
Yeah,
ever
did PG? He'd be
before we
the
get to
last
like the
one, right?
KDs? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but he's someone who I think definitely would be able to be in that running for it. So I would love to see him, uh, get that recognition because yeah, he is someone who, like you said, has continued to shoot at a high level ever since he got onto this team for sure.
I'm trying to see here. Yeah, I don't know. I'll look it up later, but that would be a good question to see the last Thunder. I don't think a Thunder player has ever won the 3-point contest.
Yeah, I can't think of one that comes to mind either.
Anyway,
Uh,
um Daquan Cook actually won it in 0809. That was the Thunder's first year. I don't think Daquan was on the Thunder though then. Anyway, um I got to move on, Justin. I'm sorry for this.
no, you're
Um
good. I
yeah,
go on to the what's that?
he was with the Heat there. Is it my turn?
I got the next one here. I got Kenrich Williams. Um, and this is another one that's a little bit more difficult. Obviously, first of all, he's going to miss time to start the
Yeah.
season. Underwent an arthroscopic procedure on his left knee. He's going to be reevaluated sometime between November 11 to 25, 25th ish, based on the timeline OKC gave. Um, it feels like a cop out just to say, continue to be a mentor, continue to provide that leadership off the floor. I think that is like where he's going to contribute the most. If I had to say something else, then I think just continuing to just fill in the gaps. When you get those open looks from deep, continue to shoot efficiently. When you're asked to defend maybe a smaller opponent or a bigger opponent, continue to show that versatility. Like those little things are the things that he, really shines at. Obviously, the hustle plays as well. And that's really to me is just the biggest goal for him is just continue to do those little things that maybe go unnoticed, but do have a big effect on the outcome of a game.
Yeah, I'm with you there. He's another one that he's probably like the hardest to assign a goal to because so much of what Kenrich does is even like beyond the actual game, just kind of what he means to the team and everything like that. So my next guy, AJ Mitchell. Emerge as the backup point guard. I know that can be a little squishy. It's not like one day Mark Daigneault's going to declare, "Hey, AJ Mitchell is the backup point guard," but I think he could virtually fill into that role. We've talked so much about who's kind of initiating on that second unit. We've talked about Aaron Wiggins is the scorer, Isaiah Hartenstein is a facilitator. Um, J Dub is usually captaining those units when Shea sits, but I think AJ Mitchell can be the primary ball handler, creator, playmaker, insert, whatever label you want to on those units. I think he is, um, even if Topic was ready to start the season, I think Mitchell is quite a long ways ahead of Topic in his development. Um, he's so steady. He's sure-handed. He's a good enough shooter. Um, he's got to take a step on the defensive end, but Mark Daignault seemed to think he has that in his game. I just think like he's got such a mature floor game that I think he can emerge as kind of the reliable backup point guard for this Thunder team.
Yeah, he's someone who played in summer league this past summer and just immediately looked like someone who was too good to be out there. I
Yeah,
mean, he obviously, got some minutes in the finals and in the postseason for a reason. He's just so patient with the ball, his composure, his decision making. He shoots the ball efficiently. He gets to his spots as well, especially in summer league and in preseason. Without some of the main guys, he did show that ability to be that guy to you run your offense through. So I could definitely see a scenario where obviously Tobic is going to miss the start of the season. So, that was going to kind of be a battle for those point guard minutes with him and Mitchell. I could see Mitchell getting this opportunity at the start of the season, kind of running with it. And by the time Topic comes in, he's like, okay, it's kind of hard to take minutes away from AJ Mitchell and what he's doing. So I could definitely see him running away with that backup point guard spot. Not just this season, but I think as a long-term option,
yeah.
that's sort of the thing that OKC looks for. Is you're going to have to draft well and have those guys on rookie scale contracts and smaller deals be able to contribute, while obviously you're paying most of your money to your big three. So I could see him as one of those guys who is immediately contributing, especially this early in his career. But actually, speaking of Topic, that is the last guy that I have. And like we said, he's going to miss time to start the season. Um, so the main thing for me when he does get healthy is going to be shooting. It's kind of an obvious one. We saw the passing in summer league. He's obviously someone who's already able to pass at a really high level. His instincts, his vision, the decision making. He cut down on turnovers slowly throughout the summer league, his summer league stretch. But yeah, the shooting is still the main thing. He averaged 10.8 points in summer league through 6 games on 33.3% shooting from the field, 20.8% shooting from deep. And luckily, he's going to have time to work on it. He's going to have Chip, who's going to be able to work with. Um, but if he isn't able to eventually become at least a respectable shooter, then it's just going to be harder to keep him on the floor.
My last guy, and I guess the last guy in this exercise, is Usman Jang. I promise I don't mean this with any ill intent, but my goal for Usman Jang is to make the most of a change of scenery because I really don't see a scenario in which Usman is on this team post trade deadline. I just think he's a likely candidate to get moved. The Thunder loves promoting its two-way guys, so that would free open a roster spot, let them sign another two-way guy. Um, maybe Jang has this unforeseen leap and gets enough minutes, but I just don't see it on a team this deep. It's so hard to develop, uh, on a team this talented. But on the other hand, like the Thunder's a great developmental team, and Oos just hasn't taken that next step, and it has nothing to do with his skill. He's super skilled for his size. It's just like playing with force. Like that's what the Thunder talks about over and over and over again. He has to play with force. When he does it, he pops. When he doesn't, he floats around and you totally forget he's out there. And the problem with Oos has been that the latter happens more often than not. That he's not using his frame to um, you know apply pressure offensively. Defensively, like he's got all the tools. I think he can be a plus defender. But again, it's that sort of tenacity. Like if you could put Kenrich Williams's brain and attitude inside Usman Jang, Us would be one heck of a player. And like maybe exactly the player the Thunder needs from that, power forward position. Uh, I just don't think it's going to happen. And I don't want to bid him farewell now, but if he does get traded, I hope he can make the most of a new situation.
Yeah, I'm there with you on that. I feel like it's only a matter of time until a guy like Brooks Barnheiser is on a standard
Yeah.
deal. I mean, he just seems like, a typical Thunder player who's able to stick around long term and be a glue guy. And obviously, in order for that to happen, they're gonna have to free up a spot. And Ooze does seem like the most likely candidate for that. he has shown flashes, which I know we're talking about his consistency. He has shown flashes this preseason. He has been a lot more willing to shoot the three ball, which has been encouraging. Hasn't gone down at times, but still, that's encouraging. He's able to put the ball on the floor. When he is aggressive, he's able to contribute on the glass, contribute on defense. But yeah, I just think it's nothing against him, but at a certain point, I think Brooks is going to be one of those guys who you just have to move up. And in order for that to happen, I think it's going to be someone like Ooze. But uh, that is all that we have in terms of the standard guys. We're missing like the two-way guys, but Brooks, I think a big goal for him should be to obviously crack that roster,
Yeah.
beyond a standard deal. We've seen everything he can do defensively. And then obviously shooting is going to be a goal as well, just improving in that department. And Brandon Carlson as well, just take advantage whenever your number is called. Pretty much, there were times last season where they really needed center depth. He was able to step in and do that. So just be ready, be prepared. I think would be the big thing for Carlson.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I think we got it, Justin.
Awesome. Well, like we said, regular season is right around the corner on Tuesday for OKC. We obviously will be providing coverage throughout the season, so stay tuned for that. And Joe, that's all that we got, man. I really do appreciate you taking the time to be on here with me.
For sure, man. This is fun and can't wait to maybe hop on again after ring night next Tuesday, about 6 days from now.
Sounds good. Thanks everybody for watching. See y'all later.